You know why I really love Nick Hood as a minister? I watched his father do it, and he took over for the church, and he was one of us, but he really turned out to be a great minister. I know it's hard, and that's something that I know that all ministers may not be doing what they're doing because for the right reasons, but I know it's hard. I know he's a beautiful man, and we've been knowing each other for over 50 years. I believe in him. He's inspired me in so many ways to do what I'm doing and try to be the best at it. Make sure you watch Nick Hood's ministries. You'll never be the same.
This is a new ministry which is just starting. Reverend Hood needs your help in sharing the good news of Jesus Christ and his power throughout the world. If you would be so kind as to send a donation to Nicholas Hood III Ministries of any amount, Reverend Hood will send you a free complimentary copy of his book of original personal prayers and beautiful photographs entitled The Test, The Strength, The Endurance, and The Way Out. We appreciate your support, and in this way, you can partner with Reverend Hood in sharing the good news of Jesus throughout the world. Please make your check out to Nicholas Hood III Ministries and mail it to 4535 Chrysler Drive, Detroit, Michigan, 48201. Welcome to Nicholas Hood III Ministries, a ministry of hope, spiritual inspiration, personal power guided by Christian love. May the power of God's Holy Spirit fall upon you as you sit back and enjoy today's program. I introduce you now to Pastor Nicholas Hood III.
Hello, this is Pastor Nick Hood. Thanks so much for tuning in today to this new broadcast. And I want to talk today about the genesis of personal faith, where your faith comes from. And I've been asking myself all week long in preparation for this ministry, when did I really begin to believe in God? And why do I believe in God? Where does my faith come from? And I would have to say that it began as a little boy. A little later on in this program, I'm going to talk with a friend of mine, Ernest Harding Jr. He's an actor from Detroit, Pershing High School, but he and I went to the same Sunday school at the Plymouth United Church of Christ. And I never ever asked myself, do I believe in God, or why do I believe in God? I just believed in God. And so I've been asking myself all week long, where did my faith come from? You'll hear a little later in the program, and I hope you'll stick around for the second half, where my buddy Ernest Harding Jr. will talk about his faith journey, being an actor. He's been in 60 movies, but he's had some situations where the door was closed on him. But for every door that closed in his life, another door opened up. And frankly, that is really a similar story to my life. When I think about the words of Paul, where he says, we walk by faith and not by sight. I've been asking myself, what does that really mean when Paul says that? And I think what Paul is saying to the early Christian church in the first century, we walk by faith and not by sight, because by sight, we're being slaughtered all the day long like sheep. Paul preached that we are suffering for the gospel of Jesus Christ. And if we only use the vision of our eyes, the eyes would tell us it's ridiculous to follow Jesus. It's ridiculous to follow Jesus because people who follow Jesus are suffering, they're hurting, they're being killed, they're being slaughtered like sheep. In my life, I would have to say that faith began as a child. My mother and father took me to church. My mother and father prayed with me and my siblings, my brothers, and little sister at night. And it was this process of daily, weekly prayer that I really believe shaped me and molded me and guided me and set me on a path of spirituality. But it's very difficult to tell a person who uses their sight, their rational mind, who looks at life and they say, you can believe all you want, but I don't. You can believe, but I have no reason to believe. Some of the best people I've met are atheists. And this may sound crazy, but I try to look at every human being in an objective way. I've made friends with some Jewish atheists. I mean, that sounds like incongruous. How can you be a Jew and not believe in God? But frankly, there are a lot of secular Jews out there right now. And in sharing time with some of these secular Jews, I've grown to appreciate, at least try to understand, their mindset when they say, well, I just don't believe. But for me, I do believe. And why do I believe? I believe because I can't believe the success that I've had in my life was due to my own doing. I just don't believe that. I've made too many mistakes to be a success. I've messed up too much to be a success. And because I know that the success is not my own, I only can attribute it to God. That's really how I feel. And I look at my life and I look at the way things have worked out, and I say, only God could have made this happen. So we walk by faith and not by sight. And that is really my belief. I've had some situations a few weeks ago. Two ladies, pinned me down figuratively at a party. And at this party, they asked me what they thought was the $1 million question. And the $1 million question for them was, Nick, have you ever had a crisis of faith? And I looked at them and I didn't, without hesitation, I said, no. And they said, you mean you've never, ever doubted God? I said, no, I never doubted God. I said, when my brother died, I didn't doubt God. My little sister had a stroke at 2 years of age. I didn't doubt God. I had another brother who died a drug-infused death. I didn't doubt God. One of the more difficult times for me was when my mother was dying. And as my mother was dying at the Harper Hospital, I went to see her. And she was in such agonizing pain. She just cried out day and night. She was dying from multiple myeloma cancer. And after, they would give her morphine. And even with morphine, the morphine could not take away my mother's pain. And I never will forget, I walked down, the flights of stairs. I forget what floor she was on, but I walked down all those stairs at the Harper Hospital in Detroit. And then walking down the stairs, I just shook my head and I prayed a prayer to the Lord that I thought was a magnanimous prayer. And what was it? I prayed, I said, Lord, I'm okay if you take my mother. I know it's common to pray that a person's life might be extended. I said, but right now, Lord, I'm not praying to extend her life. I'm praying that you, Jesus Christ, would take my mother into glory. Let her die, but let her die a peaceful death right now. Take away the pain. And as I walked down the stairs making that prayer, I thought to myself, this is a magnanimous prayer. That's real big of you, Nick, that you are ready to turn your mother over to God. But the more I prayed what I thought was a magnanimous prayer, the more my mother hollered, the more my mother cried, the more my mother suffered. And through her tears, through her pain, through her suffering, I got to the point where all I could say in faith was, God, surely, surely, only you know. I said, God, surely you know. I said, because I don't get it. I said, I'm giving you permission, God, to take my mother. And then I started thinking about it, and I said, Nick, that's an arrogant prayer. You think you being magnanimous, but really you being arrogant. You're saying, I, Nick Hood, give you, God, permission to take my mother's soul. And that's a ridiculous prayer. And so I got to the point where I finally said, God, forget my prayer. I said, obviously, I don't understand. Obviously, I don't have a clue. Because your mind is greater than mine. Your understanding is greater than my understanding. And so, Jesus, I turn it all back to you. And I believe in you anyway, anyhow. I don't understand it, but I still believe in you. I believe there's somebody looking at this program right now who's in a faith crisis. And you either believe or you don't believe. You either hope or you don't hope. Maybe you think it's luck. I believe it's the faith in God. And I believe it's the grace and the mercy of God that sustains us. And I want you to know God has a blessing with your name written on it. And I am praying for you. Believe in God, and God will open the portals of heaven and pour down blessings upon you that are richer than anything you can imagine. God bless. And remember, I am praying for you.
We hope you have enjoyed the first portion of today's broadcast. This is a new ministry which is just starting. Reverend Hood needs your help in sharing the good news of Jesus Christ and his power throughout the world. If you would be so kind as to send a donation to Nicholas Hood III Ministries of any amount, Reverend Hood will send you a free complimentary copy of his book of original personal prayers and beautiful photographs entitled The Test, The Strength, The Endurance, and The Way Out. We appreciate your support, and in this way, you can partner with Reverend Hood in sharing the good news of Jesus throughout the world. Please make your check out to Nicholas Hood III Ministries and mail it to 4535 Chrysler Drive, Detroit, Michigan, 48201.
You know why I really love Nick Hood as a minister? I watched his father do it, and he took over for the church, and he was one of us, but he really turned out to be a great minister. I know it's hard, and that's something that I know that all ministers may not be doing what they're doing because for the right reasons, but I know it's hard. I know he's a beautiful man, and we've been knowing each other for over 50 years. I believe in him. He's inspired me in so many ways to do what I'm doing and try to be the best at it. Make sure you watch Nick Hood's Ministries. You'll never be the same.
Welcome back to Nick Hood Ministries. I'm with Ernest Harding Jr. today. This is part 2 of what we began last week. And, you know, talking about the God's Plan B and the series of Plan Bs that Ernest has experienced in his life. I shared a little bit about my life, but I want to continue now, but to talk a little bit more about your faith and how your faith has sustained you during the difficult times. I knew your mother. I knew your father. They were pillars of our church. Mm-hmm. You and I met in Sunday school, right, in church. And I'm just curious, what did your mother and your father tell you about church? Why did they, what was your sense?
They insisted I go,
They insisted that you go, okay.
which was great. And my father being a Morehouse man,
Morehouse man.
he would,
You know what he used to say to me some Sundays, not every Sunday, after I would preach? He'd say, Mordecai Johnson. Mordecai Johnson is a former president of Morehouse.
well, I thought it was Benjamin E. Mays.
No, he never said Benjamin Mays for me. He said Mordecai Johnson.
Okay.
I said,
Well,
okay.
he was telling me about Benjamin E. Mays. We would, and he says, this is what Benjamin E. Mays taught me, and you should know this too, is to, if you want to do something, it needs to drive you by day and burn you at night. And that was something that he instilled in me. My father, matter of fact, he basically hypnotized me, because I would hear this all the time. Hypnotized me to do well. He would give me sayings like, a boat can't sink unless water gets inside of it. So don't let what people say get inside of you, and you won't sink. And I kept that to heart, because in this business, there are a lot of lies, there's a lot of jealousy, there's a lot of envy, there's a lot of people who are just wishing that you don't do well and talking about you in any way that they feel, and telling you what you can't do and what you shouldn't do and how you shouldn't be here. But you have to blot all that out. And through his teachings, I did. And basically saying, I don't care what anybody says. I believe in myself. I believe in the power that God has given me to do what I feel in my heart, because I feel that God put it there. So evidently, I'm walking his journey. I used to pray when I was little. Lord, teach me the right path to take. We've all said that prayer. But that's something, especially when you don't know you're walking into the unknown and you don't know what's next. That's where your faith comes in, and believing that if God didn't put that in me, I wouldn't be walking this road. And it's always turned out to be good. I think back on the time when I was about to leave New York. I went up for, I got a call from Francis Ford Coppola to audition.
Now, that's a big name in
Big
film.
name. I was running into a lot of big names at the time that I really realize now they were huge. I worked with Woody Allen back in New York in the front. I did this group. I met Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese early on in the middle of the night in a movie that they did. God, it escapes me now because I'm old. But I had a small part in this classic. And I also, like I said, I met Francis Ford Coppola, who sent me out to LA to screen test for Apocalypse Now. And what happened...
Were you in that movie too? Apocalypse Now?
I screen test for it, but I didn't get it.
Okay.
It was 2 people on that plane, actually 3. Me, a guy named Lawrence Fishburne, who got the role, and another guy named Herbert Rice, who went to my high school. And he was older than both of us, and he got another role in it, a small role in that movie. And matter of fact, his role was so powerful, I think it stopped the movie for a minute, and it was a really nice role for him. But Lawrence Fishburne beat me out for the part of Clean. But I saw everybody there on the set that I've ever seen in movies, And it was overwhelming. So I said, I need to go back now to New York, pack up, and come to LA, because something was moving me that said, you need a little bit more film on yourself so you can be established more as a star, and then come back to New York and have the parts in plays or maybe perhaps Broadway where I wanted to have. I didn't want to just be there and have small roles. So I figured if I had more film, I could do that. And what happened was, I got out there, I got to LA, and I got a Coca-Cola commercial, and next thing you know, I got the Jeffersons. So that was like a plan B.
I think I remember that Coca-Cola commercial.
No, I don't think you did.
It wasn't Coke? What
It was
did
Coke.
see?
I did a
saw
Coca-Cola
you-
commercial.
I saw you in some commercials.
Yeah, well, it was Coca-Cola commercial. I've been in several commercials since, so I don't even remember. I don't even remember what I did in that commercial.
Did you do one for UPS or FedEx?
No, I never did a FedEx one.
Amazon?
But I had one
What was
for
the one where
Saturn.
you were driving the
Saturn.
Saturn.
That was such a huge commercial, yeah.
was.
But I got the Jeffersons. I went up and got the Jeffersons as a guest. I wasn't even supposed to be a regular, but I got the Jeffersons right away as a guest. And what happened was, they liked me so much, they called me before the show even aired and said, the network likes you. We think we want to screen test you for a role on the Jeffersons as a regular. So I went in there, and this is a quick little story. I went in there, I played a character named Jason King. That was the first character that I was on in the Jeffersons. And when I was sitting in the producer's office, I looked at the script, and he says, yeah, we think we want to make you a regular, this is going to be great. And I didn't see Jason's name anywhere. And I said, okay, they're starting me off small. I'm happy to be here. I'm not going to argue. He says, how do you like this script, Ernest? Oh, I love it, I love it. I didn't see my name in it at all. He said, yeah, Marcus, you got a lot of work to do, so be careful what you ask for. And I'm like, Marcus was on every page. And that made me pretty nervous, but I said, hey, sleep is overrated. I'm getting ready to study my eyeballs out, and I did. Made it, had an on-air screen test, and the rest is history. I did Marcus for 3.5 years. Yeah.
And people are still talking about it.
It's a classic. It's part of the fabric of America, my friend. It's seen all over the world. If they shoot a rocket up, they probably have an episode of the Jeffersons in there. And I was blessed to have been a big part of that. I have fans all over the world. It's really nice. Matter of fact, now that you see Facebook, they all try to contact you from Italy, from Japan, from everywhere, and it's flattering. But I was blessed. Sometimes you're just blessed to God's plan B is better than what you ever anticipated.
Well, Ernest, we got to wrap things up, but I really have enjoyed hearing your stories.
Well, can I tell you one other thing?
Sure, tell it.
Well, I have a new movie coming out called Sweetwater.
Sweetwater. Okay.
Sweetwater, and it's going to be released through Warner Brothers April 14th. For all of you who like basketball, it's a true story about a player named Sweetwater Clifton. They call him Sweetwater not because he had a sweet game, but because he liked soda. He liked pop. And they called him Sweetwater because of that. Well, he was the first black to ever sign a contract in the NBA. He signed with the New York Knicks. And I play Will Robinson. Will Robinson.
From Detroit.
From Detroit, who coached our high school team to a state championship.
Pershing High School.
Right.
And
this was one of his first jobs in Chicago.
He was a
He's
member
of the
of our
church.
church.
Yes, the same Will Robinson.
He didn't attend very much.
Right. The legendary, he was busy coaching. And so he was, I got to play him because he coached Sweetwater back in the late 40s, early 50s as in high school. And back then, there were no blacks who owned teams not even the Globetrotters. It was basically white. So we have Richard Dreyfuss is one of the stars, Jeremy Piven. We got a great all-star cast. And so I just want you to keep your eyes open for that one because it's going to be a big deal.
We're looking forward to seeing it.
Thank you.
And thanks so much. You could have gone any direction, but so you stopped by to spend a few moments with me. And I appreciate that.
It's been my pleasure, man. We've been, we from the womb to the tomb, my
That's
friend.
right. That's right.
We are brothers.
Well, folks, again, I've been with Ernest Harding Jr. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to look at this broadcast. This is a new broadcast ministry that I've embarked upon, and I need your hope, I need your prayers, and I need your support. But most of all, I want your prayers, and I want you to know I'm praying for you. God bless, and God keep you.
This is a new ministry which is just starting. Reverend Hood needs your help in sharing the good news of Jesus Christ and His power throughout the world. If you would be so kind as to send a donation to Earnest Hood III Ministries of any amount, Reverend Hood will send you a free complimentary copy of his book of original personal prayers and beautiful photographs entitled The Test, The Strength, The Endurance, and The Way Out. We appreciate your support, and in this way, you can partner with Reverend Hood in sharing the good news of Jesus throughout the world. Please make your check out to Earnest Hood III Ministries and mail it to 4535 Chrysler Drive, Detroit, Michigan, 48201. Thank you for watching today's program. We hope you've been blessed in a powerful way. Just knowing you took the time to watch today's broadcast is a great encouragement to Pastor Nick Hood. If this broadcast has been a blessing to you, we ask that you mail a tax-free donation to Earnest Hood Ministries at 4535 Chrysler Drive, Detroit, Michigan, 48201.
You know why I really love Nick Hood as a minister? I watched his father do it, and he took over for the church, and he was one of us, but he really turned out to be a great minister. I know it's hard, and that's something that I know that all ministers may not be doing what they're doing because for the right reasons, but I know it's hard. I know he's a beautiful man, and we've been knowing each other for over 50 years. I believe in him. He's inspired me in so many ways to do what I'm doing and try to be the best at it. Make sure you watch Nick Hood's Ministries. You'll never be the same.